What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from NoleGameday.com. I'm here with Dustin Lewis, our lead writer and editor. Out in the dark, D-Lou. How's it going? Happy Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's lunch break, so I need a little darkness just to get me through the rest of this day. I mean, everyone knows Mondays are the absolute worst day of the week, so whatever you got to do to get to 5, right?
We got to wake you up. It looks like you just woke up about 10 minutes ago. But the good thing is that we got to talk about a scrimmage, though, D-Lou. We talked about one before last week, and we have a second one. School is back in session. I know that because I've got a lot of classes to take care of in my last semester at FSU. So I have to wake up. I'm ready to talk about another scrimmage. We've got a lot to talk about here. We'll run through it for about 10 minutes. But let's start off with number one. And let's talk kind of how the vibe was. They started at 7:30. They're trying to kind of have that mimic that game type situation. D-Lou, that's what Norvell and the whole staff is really pressing right now. There was a few guys that were in playing, some guys starters that they kind of left out that they're giving some load time management for. But overall, it seemed like the vibe and the warm ups and everything kind of had that game type feeling. They even wore game unis too, which was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean that's exactly what they want to do with this scrimmage. Obviously, yesterday at 7:30, 2 weeks from then is when everything will kick off against Notre Dame. So FSU wanted to go ahead and do this scrimmage on Sunday night just to replicate kind of what exactly they're going to go through in that opening game of the year. And by all accounts, from what we heard, it sounds like Mike Norvell and the coaching staff was very pleased with the outcome of this scrimmage.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But if we go back to the first scrimmage, there was some lightning in the area, if I remember correctly, and they had to move things over to the IPF. This
Mm-hmm.
time, this go around, they actually got to be in Doak. They had music playing. They had a few family members in attendance, and so they're trying to get that kind of game time feeling. And back under the lights and Doak fully, and Norvell, like you said, was really pleased with the scrimmage overall. From a source that I talked to, said that this was by far the best practice / scrimmage anything that they've had this whole fall camp, which is great to hear. Some guys, like I had mentioned before, some guys out didn't participate, D-Lou, but we'll start getting into some names right now. Number one, a guy that impressed overall, the first name given to me was DJ Williams, the Auburn transfer running back that had a great day physical. He trucked a guy, actually, from what I was told, trucked the dude, and was just playing really well. Coming into this fall, there was still some, things that he wanted to work on his body and trim down a little bit. I think in the spring when we saw him, D-Lou, he was definitely a big guy. Didn't get to see him play a lot. But coming in this fall and then now, a few weeks in, he's really trimmed down and worked on his body. And David Johnson has been, happy to see him work on that. And I believe he's dropped about 15 pounds. So that helps a lot for him.
Yeah, and we've heard good things about Jashawn Corbin. We've heard good things about Treshawn Ward. Now we're hearing good things about DJ Williams. So this is a good problem for Florida State to have a lot of competition in that running back room. And we all know that Mike Norvell really loves to use his running backs in a variety of ways. And in this room, I mean, obviously we didn't even mention Toa Philly and Corey Wren, guys like that. There's just so many different guys that can excel in so many different ways. And like I said, it's a good problem for FSU to have now to be able to figure out how they're going to utilize each guy and put them in the best scenarios for success.
Yep. Along with DJ Williams there, we'll go to the quarterback room. The participants there, from what we've heard, was Jordan Travis. You had Tate Rodemaker. You also had Trevor Purdy and Juno English walk on. Also got a little bit of time in there, but Jordan Travis looked really good. There was no turnovers there. That seems to be a trend right now, which is great to hear there because we've been hearing from sources telling us that there has been some improvement, significant improvement on Jordan Travis's passing game. And so him being able to throw the ball, feel comfortable in the pocket is a big thing for him. They want him to look down the field. They don't want him escaping the pocket. There was some times last night, though, where he had to escape, but made really good plays. We talked about that, I believe, on the last podcast, where he's making some plays, and it's getting harder for guys to tackle him. And that's what we saw last year. And if he's improving that too, it makes sense for him to make it hard for these guys on the second level. to tackle him and head into the third. Like he's making some plays. But yeah, Jordan Travis had another great scrimmage.
Yeah, I think last year it was obvious that he wasn't really consistent throwing down the field a lot of times, and he would just kind of tuck it and run to get whatever yardage he could. And it feels like now, like you said, Logan, he's getting a little bit more comfortable in the system. He's been able to learn under Mike Norvell for a year, work with some of these skill players in the offense, and I think he's starting to find that balance between tucking and running and finding a guy downfield, and that's what it's going to take throughout the season. He's got to find the balance.
Yep. And speaking of, Jordan Travis, we were told, and if you guys were in our Discord last night, we ran through all the nuggets from there. But now we'll be able to share with you. This was a slant touchdown from Jordan Travis to Parchment here. Kind of had an up and down scrimmage from what we were told from Parchment. But, this was a nice highlight for him. And Parchment is slowly but surely kind of getting that rhythm down of the offense. He's a late enrollee to Florida State's team, and it's going to take a little bit more, I think, to get the offense going. But he's a guy, this upcoming season, he will be a big-time player. They're going to have him out there because he has that edge of explosiveness where, he can be a game changer down the field. But this was a pass here from Jay Travis. This looks like it's Lundy here in the middle, if I'm correct. That looks like a 4 and maybe a 6 there. But, yeah.
You'd figure that out.
And a note, too, this is Devontae Love-Taylor, which we'll talk about here in a second.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to what we reported last week with Parchment. He's kind of been inconsistent so far. He makes some plays, but then there are also some head scratchers or drops. And, it makes sense. Like you said, he came in extremely late. He didn't have like Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas and Jamie Robinson. He didn't get to come in January and get to go through spring and learn the system. He's picking up everything kind of on the fly here in camp. So I think it's impressive as is to see how he's doing. And, he's a guy, he's just going to continue to get more comfortable, and FSU is going to need him to step up. He's going to be relied upon a lot this year.
Yeah, that's a nice strike there. A good ball placement, it seems like, for Andrew Parchment there. I'm wondering who was on him. But, yeah, speaking of a guy here that you want to see participating is in that background is Devontae Love-Taylor. Mm-hmm. We've been told for the last about a week and a half or a good amount of time, he's been participating. Norvell and them, they've kind of been talking about keeping him safe, and then that makes sense. And there was a few guys that didn't participate in this scrimmage because they feel pretty comfortable, and some of them have already played and kind of these situations where you don't need to have them risk any kind of injury. I think maybe Norvell's looking back at how the first scrimmage went for him last year, and you lost Chuba Purdy for the entire season, and could never really fully recover. But it's a smart move, and that's what you get to do when you have a full spring and you have a full camp. This is the kind of positive that you get out of it. COVID-19 last year hurt a lot of that, but now you get to kind of give more times to get more chances of allowing these guys to rest more. So it's good to see Devontae Love-Taylor out there participating. I doubt he played a whole ton in last night's scrimmage.
Yeah, and obviously he got injured late in the year last year, missed the entire spring. I mean, he was out there in a helmet and shorts for a lot of things, and just watching the linemen go through it. So I definitely think now, as the season is starting to get closer, it's important to ramp him up a little bit, get him out there, let him hit a couple guys, and just make sure he's fully ready to go for Notre Dame on September 5th.
Yeah, most certainly. And then going to a few, nuggets we'll go ahead and talk about. And here, overall, I asked Source, who kind of won the night overall. And it seems to be the whole tale of everything this whole fall camp. Offense, defense going at it. It's been competitive. No one really had a surge of who won, but offense, it seems like, had the better night overall. Portier is one guy to note at wide receiver that had some flashes too a little bit last night. Like we already talked about with DJ Williams. Brian Robinson did not participate last night either, but it seemed like the offense kind of won this night, but it's been competitive. But you also got to note too, there were some guys on defensive line at the end too that weren't participating in the but in the scrimmage last night. So, you kind of take it for what you think and for what it's worth, but offense won the night overall.
Yeah, it's good to hear. And I mean, for the most part, it sounds like things were competitive and the offense just edged it out by a little bit. And I think the most important thing is just going back to what we were talking about earlier, Mike Norvell saying or thinking that this was probably the best scrimmage that FSU's had so far and being really pleased with things. That's really important to note because obviously we're 2 weeks through fall camp. I think it's really important for the entire team to grow and just get better throughout the process. So I think it's important that he was pleased and even more happy with this scrimmage than last week.
Going to some defensive notes here. Dustin, you're very high on this guy, and he's going to play an impact this upcoming season, definitely in the second team. But defensive end Marcus Cushney, I
Hmm.
worked with second team last night. We didn't get to see him in the first scrimmage, but the source told me last night you can definitely see the explosiveness off the edge. Quoted, he's like a spring off there, and he just seems like he's quick. Had a sack last night and played well. Nothing too crazy fancy, but it's good to see him coming in and making a pretty decent impact so far, and he's gonna play this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Parchment coming in late. I believe Cushney got on campus a week or maybe a little bit more than a week before
Yeah,
fall camp actually got started. So he's really coming into things behind. But, I think it's good just for him to be out there learning the system. Obviously, Florida State, they've kind of got to ease him into things. But at the same time, I mean, this is a guy who was a pretty damn good pass rusher at Alabama A&M, and I think he can contribute off the edge. And yeah, he's had a good camp so far. Like you said, Logan had a sack last night, and his abilities are going to be useful for FSU and that revamped defensive end room.
some other two names to note on defense: Shaheem Brown, true freshman DB. Once again, he gets the only takeaway of the
Yeah.
night. And, I'm giving props to Shane Brown because he's been in his bag. Like, he's been consistent right now. Definitely as a true freshman, guys. Like, he is impressing early on, and he's going to get into that rotation. I know there's been a lot of questions about it. Is he going to be a starter? I don't expect him to be a starter against Notre Dame, but I do think we will see him in that game, most certainly. He's been consistent. He's been a dog. He's ready to compete, and Mike Norvell loves the kid from what I've seen and heard from, a few of the sources we've talked to. He's just playing the ball well. He's putting himself in the right position as a true freshman. That's big. You're understanding your assignments. You're understanding your reads, where you need to be at, where you need to put your body to get these takeaways, and that's something Shaheem just continues to do. And that might be the guy out of fall camp that is that surprise guy. There's always one of them, and it happens to be Delu, a true freshman.
Yeah, it sounds like right now he's competing for that starting nickel spot and for reps at safety with Jamie Robinson. I don't think he's going to end up beating out Robinson, but I do think that he could grow into playing a crucial role for Florida State as a part of that rotation at defensive back. And I mean, he forced a turnover or two last week. He got, like you said, he got the only one last night. And this is a guy, he didn't come in as an early enrollee. He got here in June, July, and has just taken to exactly what Florida State wants. And I mean, it's impressive. A lot of these guys in this Tribe 21 class have already come in and taken right to the program and seem like they're going to play big roles this upcoming season. And he's another one. And, we talked about him a little bit on the podcast. A guy who was unheralded as a recruit caught a little bit of flack from fans for whatever reason when he came in. They're like, why put a scholarship on this guy? And man, is he proving the doubters wrong right now.
I love it. I love that. I love guys that are ready to come in here and prove anybody wrong, but kind of keep silent on it and do work. And he's you know I just football fans are annoying to me. I'm not going to comment on it because we need to keep going through things. But anyways, I would love to see a few of those guys hit the field and see if they could do anywhere like 10% close to what Brown can do. But that's another conversation. Another conversation for another day. Brown is just lighting it up, so I'm interested to see how he continues in the last couple weeks. Delu, another
Mhm.
name here out of the blue a little bit too that we heard about. Maryland linebacker transfer Cortez Andrews has been a big physical guy, definitely in this last scrimmage. From what I was told, made some pops, likes bringing down the wood, is just a physical nature kind of guy, and that kind of goes with Lundy too. These two guys have been kind of forces there, bringing that meanness and those big hits too. So that's something to note there. And Lundy, the last 4 practices, seems like the week overall, let's say, he's been a consistent guy there and putting himself in the right spot. It's been a little bit quiet for Steven Dix Jr., but Lundy right now is making some strides. And, you know, I thought he played for what he, when he was put in the games last year, played pretty fine. There was still ups and downs, most certainly, but I thought that his east to west was a lot faster than I was expecting. He gets another full spring, and now he's got fall camp. Watch out, Lundy might be that guy where he's going to play a pivotal factor, definitely there in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the linebackers were very disappointing last year, but it's good to hear the progress that guys like DJ Lundy and Steven Dix Jr. Have made over the offseason. And I think, them continuing to grow along with having Amari Gaynor, getting Emmett Rice back, and obviously Kalen DeLoach, there have been some good things that we've heard about him from spring, and it's continued into the fall. So we'll see if he ends up playing a role. It's good for Florida State to have a lot of guys that can contribute and hopefully turn around the linebacking core.
Yeah, because it desperately needs it.
Yeah.
Let's note on, it desperately needs it. And to note, it just seems like that the linebacker room has got some work to do, and it's not great. It's not so great to hear going into Coach Marv's second year, and you've got you still have a young room. I mean, we're not going to lie about that. You're still missing Emmett Rice, and I think there's some optimism that he'll be available for the Notre Dame game, but still, I mean that room there's got to be some improvement there. It's been lacking so much. Let's note on some special teams to finish this off. Don't really hear a lot about special teams. Usually at the scrimmage, didn't hear about on the first one, but last night I was told the punter from down under, Alex Mastramano, had it.
You didn't say it right.
I always don't say it right, so you always say the same thing.
The punter from down under. You've got to get the accent in there.
Okay. I thought you were making fun of my last name, how I say it. I just knew I was going to wreck that anyways. But the punter from down under, I'm going to let you have that. But the punter from down under performed really well. I mean, he's playing at a high, as an elite caliber. We'll see if that translates to actual game. But there was flashes last year, but supposedly he's been very, very consistent during camp. So that's a great sign there from the punter. And then also Parker Growthhouse along with Ryan Fitzgerald are kind of 50-50 right now, guys. There's not kind of going to have to see. It might be that last week we figure out who that starter will be. But right now I think the staff is still allowing them to compete and go at it, which the beginning of camp, D-Lou, Ryan Fitzgerald was staying really consistent and didn't miss a field goal for a good amount of practices. But it seems like now those guys are 50-50.
Yeah, it seems like you said, Fitzgerald, he had a really good start to fall camp. And I mean, I haven't heard anything that his performance has fallen off or something like that. I just think Mike Norvell wants to continue, to put pressure on them, make them push each other to improve and not name a starter just yet, because obviously both of them were very inconsistent last year. And I do think, if one of them comes out and whoever gets named the starter doesn't start the year well, there could obviously be a switch, because I think both of them are capable at performing for FSU. As for Mastramano, obviously he's a guy, he hasn't really played a ton of football, so he's still really getting into the sport and the fundamentals and the techniques. But he's got a lot of potential, and I think he's just going to continue to grow, because obviously his leg is massive. I mean, you see some of those videos he's putting out on Instagram, and I swear, like, he punts the ball and it's just gone. Like, I don't know how they're going to go bring that thing back. So
yeah,
as his career goes on, I think he's only going to get better.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a wrap on the second scrimmage. D-Lou, how do you feel after these two? Now Florida State will begin Notre Dame prep. Like we talked about, there's been a few guys that they rest during this last scrimmage. I know there's a lot of conversation about the quarterback room and how that's going to work out. I think both quarterbacks are going to be, and I think the doggy is also excited about the season coming up. But with Jordan Travis, you got McKenzie Milton. We'll see how this transitions. I know everybody's worried about Milton's not practicing. Jordan Travis is not practicing. I think a lot of it is maybe a little bit of load management and trying to keep maybe Milton healthy we'll see how that kind of works. I think Dustin's dog is barking everywhere, but yeah, the quarterback room is still something that is going to be a worrisome, I think, for a lot of fans. But I don't think right now you don't need to worry too much right now. But yeah, so that wraps up the second scrimmage for Florida State. If you guys haven't joined yet, I highly suggest joining the Patreon down below. That's where we jump out and throw all the nuggets. Definitely like the second scrimmage, and we'll have more leading into the Notre Dame game and throughout the whole season. We'll also be going into games and be giving y'all the inside scoop on warm-ups and everything inside the Discord. So you guys can sign up there, patreon.com/NoleGameday. But that's going to do it for here. From us, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like, subscribe button, and we will talk to you guys next time here on YouTube. Peace.